to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I am AJ Walsh, and glad to be with you this morning. Thanks for joining us. CKLU 96.7 FM, CKLU.ca, Radio Player Canada app. Listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. Also live on Facebook, facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Thanks for everyone joining us this morning. Grateful to have you, and make sure to like and share this video today so that we can continue our quest to get out to as many people as we possibly can to have this conversation be as broad as possible, this community conversation that we've started here on Sudbury News. Good morning, Zach. Speaking of a conversation, I'm glad to have you here with me.
Morning. I'm glad to be here.
And I hope to have you as long as possible, knowing that
changes might be coming.
Life could happen to us anytime. Mm-hmm. Just like it says at the beginning of the show, you never know what could happen. Anything could happen, and it's 100% true.
You know, I don't want to spurn my own show, but my wife asked me last night if I had even been doing it, because a lot of the time I just go from here directly to work or do whatever else, and
so she
never sees me again, so she doesn't know if I
came here.
I leave way before she would have woken up, right?
Yeah.
So
obviously she's not.
I said yes, I have been doing it. I don't just leave at 6 for no reason.
Yeah.
But no, it's good.
Have you been doing the show? Though, really?
I think so, unless it's a robot.
You know,
that thinks it's me.
We talked about AI.
That's what
extensively.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah, I know. So you never know.
Completely different theme today than yesterday, by the way.
It's going to be a great show, everyone, and we need to get to some sports. I'm just giving you a heads up on that.
Love sports.
We have two. And I'm going to have to boot that up too. We have two press releases from Sudbury Wolves Sports and Entertainment Group that we want to talk about, mainly about the Spartans and Junior Spartans, but also they're moving their store that they have.
Oh, and from the mall?
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah.
So we'll cover that.
That's breaking news.
Breaking news, everyone. So anyways, speaking of breaking... And as you can see here, it is 13 degrees currently. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, comfortable, I would say. I had a comfortable night last night.
I'd be okay with this year-round.
Me too. I would definitely be, humidity is only 83%, down from the 100% it's been. Today, mainly cloudy, 30% chance of showers early this morning with a risk of thunderstorm. Really? Clearing near noon. Yeah, there's a risk of thunderstorm all the time, apparently. But wind becoming southwest, gusting to 40 this morning. Then light this afternoon. High of 29. Humidex will be 32. Much like yesterday, I think it was exactly that. UV index is 9. And clearing this late this evening, low of 16. And then Saturday is Sunday. Saturday is Sunday.
Nice.
You like that? Saturday is sunny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sunday is coming after Saturday, but it's not going to be sunny apparently on Sunday, but we'll get to that. The high will be 30, humidex will be 35, so kind of a hot Saturday. And then the long range, you can see Saturday is 30. We just talked about that. Sunday, they're predicting showers. 40, it was 40%, but you see the little sun
and showers
coming out there. So they're saying, you know what? There may not be showers. We're just trying to throw off your barbecue plans, which I do have.
Mess you up.
Yeah, just to say, kind of scare you a bit. Anyways, and then mix of sun and cloud on the Monday and then the Tuesday. So anyways, it looks relatively kind of nice coming up here for the next few days. We'll be back right after this. And with some headlines, what are we talking about today? Exactly.
Absolutely. There was an interesting story. I mean, for residents of Falconbridge, the booming metropolis of Falconbridge, could be some pretty interesting changes going on, some long-awaited changes, and a truck bypass will hopefully give the residents some peace. So we'll talk about that. If you're not too familiar with Falconbridge, this story might be a skip for you, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think little communities around Sudbury are still Sudbury. So if it were Chelmsford, would we spurn the story? I think not.
No, we like talking Chelmsford.
So we do like talking little communities too.
Yeah.
Lefebvre is back in the news, running for mayor.
Yeah. That's going to be
previous
interesting.
MP for the Liberal Party for Sudbury.
Wondering if we should save that one for the last, because I think that might be a long conversation. But who knows? You never know. But I'll just go with you on this one.
No
You're in
problem. We
control
can
of the
mix it up.
headlines and the order.
There's a story. The headline might be a little provocative. It's Sudbury police charge a Toronto man with trafficking girls in Sudbury. So the man accused was found in a Sudbury hotel with 2 females. One of them was underage.
Wow.
Under suspect of human trafficking. So this is almost like a follow-up on the story last week we had, which was a suspect of human trafficking, or what could have led to human trafficking with some drugging. And it's kind of a weird theme we have going on. But hopefully we can pull it all together. And something else that I wanted to cover, we actually ran out of time on our last show.
We did.
But it was an op-ed that local news matters more now than ever before because there's so many conflicting truths.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would say because the truth is constantly developing,
Yes.
local news might be in a better position to address the needs of their local markets rather than being told everything by bigger entities. So.
Yeah, when you have the whole monopoly game taking place with media and big companies buying up all the other ones, you eventually end up with no local news. But I think, and then you end up with what we talked about yesterday: the government steps in, funds
Almost always
funds all the local government, because they're like, hey, wait a minute, the market, there's no local news, so we'll give money to local news. And then what do you think happens then?
I don't know what happens then.
What if you want to report on something that's,
Then it's crowded out. So
or something that's going on that's nefarious in the government, and you want to report on it,
right.
but your money's coming from there? What do you think happens?
Yeah, it's basically like musical chairs. The chairs are all taken up, and they don't want anyone to do the job anymore.
Yeah, and then you can't really say anything against you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Anyways, we can talk more about that when we talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, free speech is kind of a contentious issue.
Yeah, which is odd.
And speaking of free speech, I think our first story of the day needs to be about this meeting with conservative MPs and James Topp, one of the key convoy.
As promised this
figures.
Friday, James Topp. Oddly enough, we got some coverage. I think this was from Sudbury.com. No, am I wrong?
CTV was the one I was pulling from.
Okay, no problem. I think Sudbury.com covered it too.
Good for you guys.
Can't remember where I saw it, but yeah, it was in our local news at least.
So let's give a little bit of background if people don't know
Sure.
who James Topp is.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian soldier, Afghanistan war veteran. He finished a 4-month march from Vancouver to the National War Memorial in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
Started in February, and the planned arrival on June 30th has, people kind of divided yet again because it's in Ottawa.
Yeah, the place where
The convoy
was, yeah.
And then there's all the people who support him, who I think we all know there's an irrational fear of people who disagree with, what tends to be a liberal consensus
And
in places like Ottawa.
well, I think a lot of misinformation going around, and just hearing comments from people about their interpretation of what some of these advocates are advocating for, right? So it's just odd how it gets kind of blown out of proportion. So I'm glad we're going to just be able to talk about it. Yeah.
I don't know, something like this. He meets with some MPs, Conservative Party MPs.
Okay.
And immediately that makes it seem like it's this very partisan political thing, but I would tend to disagree, mostly because that might just be the people who are willing to meet with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily that they completely agree with
Correct.
everything, or it's not that, every other party disagrees.
Yeah.
It's just that's who's allowed to kind of have a different opinion.
Yeah, I think when
Seems like this,
when we saw
PC party.
Yeah, when we saw the Freedom Convoy thing going on, the protests in Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
and then I watched the parliamentary sessions where they debated what was going on, and the one side, whatever, there were people that were demonizing anyone who were going to speak to any of the people in Ottawa that were protesting or advocating for their cause.
Mm.
And it seemed like, the people were just picking which side someone, that it was appropriate to speak to, because I know when Black Lives Matter was going on, that Justin Trudeau totally went right down, spoke with the organizers, and listened to what they had to say, even though the historical reality of it is that the protests on that side were a lot more heated and aggressive, and there was more damage and a lot more, how to say it, they were real, protests.
For sure.
Then, the convoy was a lot more peaceful, but yet it was more demonized, saying like these guys are just a fringe group and we don't have any reason to talk to them. And so there's a real partisan, like you said, partisan thing. So our prime minister sided with the ideology of one group more than another, demonized one side more than another, and said, you can't even talk to these people. But then says they're a threat to our democracy. So on one side, he's saying you can't talk to people, and saying those people are a threat to democracy. So it's like very hypocritical, I think, to say you can't talk to people, the people that vote, citizens, and then say that threaten democracy at the same time. I think the fact that you're saying that threatens democracy itself. But anyways, I digress.
What's a bigger threat?
Yeah. People voicing their opinion or not allowing them to voice their opinion. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't buy into the slippery slope fallacy. Like, I don't buy into the idea of,
what is the
if you allow them to say their opinion, then,
it threatens democracy.
now we have a dictatorship.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I think it's a lot more likely.
I think the opposite is true.
Opposite is,
if you don't allow people
we agree to disagree, but
share their opinions and their feelings, then it's a dictatorship. Exactly. And I got the sense he was very much acting like a dictator during that whole.
Who, James Top?
No, Justin Trudeau. Yeah, back to James Top here.
So let's talk about what he was trying to accomplish with this march. He said he wanted to get all vaccine mandates repealed.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Health Canada says the vaccines are completely safe, efficacious, quality standards are high, the benefits far outweigh the risks.
Yeah.
Over 85% of Canadians have received at least one dose, despite all these things. And they have to put that in the article, by the way. But, because the whole point of it was misinformation. So they have to put that in to kind of, I don't know. But I don't know if I would call that covering their bases or I would call that muddying the waters, because like most people are not going to read an entire news article.
That's
I
right.
would think. So by the time you get to something like that, it's like this long-winded.
Kind of buried.
It's kind of like going completely against what the rest of the article says.
Yeah.
So it's kind of confusing, but yeah. So repeal the vaccine mandates. He also called for people laid off because they refused to get the COVID vaccines, that they would be compensated. He said that was one of his goals.
So what was that last point?
If they were laid off from their job.
Oh, okay, yes, due to not getting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a reparations or a retribution platform as well. I don't know if that's his main goal. Maybe that's like a secondary one.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like the main one was to get vaccine mandates repealed. And at this point, you're talking about a significant minority of people, less than 15%
Of an entire country.
of an entire country. Mm-hmm. So
I'd say good job. High
If
five.
anything,
High
I would
five,
say-
government. You did a good job. You got 85% of your country, the goal. Good job. Okay, let's move on now. But it just seems like they're not satisfied enough or something.
Well,
like, what do they want? 100%? And
yeah, they do
how
want
you get
100%,
How do you
yeah.
get 100%? Like, without forcing or taking away someone's right to choose.
you know what this makes me think of? It makes me think of, I remember when I was in my first stint in university, I was surrounded by a pretty like left-leaning entourage, friends, and I chose that group of people.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
how I kind of leaned back then. But the big thing then was like, they could not fathom how a human being could allow something as terrible as segregation in the States
Yeah.
to go on while they existed on the same planet. It was like, how could something so terrible? Of course, I would be like the most active protester of that program. Mm-hmm. Like every day, like that was their attitude. That was my attitude too. And then I read a book and thought about it and realized we're probably doing very similar or way worse things today. And until this vaccine thing happened, I didn't have a great analogy. But now I kind of do. It's like, what if 15% of people, we told them they weren't allowed to fly?
Yep.
Oh, wait, that
it is
did
true.
happen. Like, what if we told people they weren't allowed to eat in the same places we are? Oh, yeah, that did happen. What if we told people that you're only allowed to have certain jobs, and even then, it's completely on our whim?
Yeah.
You know, what if we told people you can't visit your relatives
Yeah.
if they get sick or when they get sick?
Period. Not even if you had a vaccine or not. Remember, there was a while there where our seniors were stuck in homes and no one was allowed to visit them. My goodness, what a
And I think what's
poor
important to point out here
situation.
is like
Yeah.
this wasn't based on infection.
No.
This was based on
Theory.
vaccine status.
Or yeah. Okay. Yes, you're right.
So
Yeah.
like we can debate the practicality of one versus the other, but to me there should have been a hard line
But it was also
drawn
based,
in the concrete that
Yeah.
that would never happen.
But it was also based on a theory that the vaccines were the answer.
Yeah, it's
Which is
still
still
the prevailing theory. I
But
would think.
I'm just saying no. But I still think the verdict is not out on that yet. That the vaccine is the only answer to the problem. Let's say we didn't have a vaccine.
No, I don't think they're saying that's the only answer. Otherwise,
It's the
they
one
wouldn't
they
be
chose.
doing anything except for that.
Well, it was the one they chose. Like if you
But
get a
there isn't
vaccine,
only one.
but that's what I
There's
mean.
more
But
than
if you had
one.
a vaccine, you could eat in the restaurant. If you had a vaccine, you can travel. But yet those same people were getting COVID. Well, then why were they able to only travel then? Like I had people in my family just went down to Florida, all vaccinated, boosted, everything. Every one of them,
Yeah,
COVID.
they all got infected. Yeah.
Everyone in my family have problems, serious medical problems, who had the vaccine. And they're now wondering, why are the ones who didn't get the vaccine healthy? And all of us got and we're all having all kinds of medical problems.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the verdict is still out. There's not enough time that's gone by, but our medical establishment had chosen, for whatever, good, bad, ugly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything other than what I know. And that is they chose that the vaccine was the only answer. Not vitamin D, not getting some sun. If anything, lock yourself in your house. Don't get sun. Nothing about exercise. Skip the dishes and get fat. It's all the opposite things you would think a normal common sense health practitioner would tell you. They never said one thing, the people that are in charge of our health. They only said vaccine, social distance, and then this whole hard-nosed, like you said, segregation. If you don't, you're punished. If you don't listen to us, can't go to the movies. You can't get these privileges. Mm-hmm. It's like back in the day, whites only, like you said, like segregation. Same
yeah, but
idea
it's not
happened.
based on race. So
No,
I think people have
that's right.
this natural, it must be okay because it's not based on like social class or race. Yeah. But it's like, it wasn't about that then though. I think in the 60s, there had never been a concern before. Like segregating people based on race wasn't hard and fast, terrible thing to do yet.
No.
And
socially,
today it's
it wasn't
the same.
Socially unacceptable.
It wasn't socially unacceptable, but because it is unacceptable today, we think of it as it always must have been that way, but that's not the case. So it's the same, to me, it's the same with this.
Yeah.
If you make a personal, choice not to get vaccinated, despite doing your research and looking at all these things, then I still hold the position that the government does not retain the right
for sure
to limit your activity, even for the safety of other people.
Yep.
The seatbelt analogy to me is the closest thing. Like what you said, and you can hold multiple ideas simultaneously in your brain. I certainly do. But the seatbelt analogy is the best one for me. Like if I choose not to wear my seatbelt, how does that affect you?
The only way that it would, and it could, is that if you became a projectile in an accident because you didn't wear your seatbelt and flew out the window and hit into me, and I was killed or injured because you didn't wear your seatbelt, or someone in the car that you were driving, you didn't wear your seatbelt, got in an accident, you became like this floppy whatever doll in your car and you started injuring people in your car. There is, so I understand. So I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt, being the devil's advocate against the very point I'm trying to make, and saying, yes, there are even risks to that if you really want to get down to talking about it. But you are right. It should come down to choice. If I choose not to get a vaccine, or you choose not to get a vaccine, someone chooses to get a vaccine, you know what's happened in the media, though? They make it seem as though the people that didn't get the vaccine are still a danger to the ones who did get the vaccine.
That's the point
but
I wanted to make.
Now I want to really wrap your head around that. What is a vaccine supposed to do?
Yeah.
Why do people get a vaccine? No, just tell me.
I don't want to go too much into the mRNA versus traditional.
I'm not even getting into the mRNA. That's a whole other discussion.
It's too much to go into.
No, but I'm just saying, why did people just generally get a vaccine?
It's usually a prophylactic. It's to prevent disease.
Yeah. So why are you worried about unvaccinated people then?
But that's not what this vaccine's for.
What's it for?
It's mRNA vaccines.
Sure.
Aren't, they don't inoculate you the way that other ones do. Like this one specifically was in order to synthesize spike protein.
Okay.
And I mean, it's been proven that it's not very good as a prophylactic.
So why did people get it then? Why was the government
spike protein?
So why was the government so adamant of all over the world that everyone needed to get it then?
Do you want a simple explanation?
You're
not gonna like it, but a simple explanation of why the government didn't want anyone to refuse it and want everyone to get it. It's because the side effects were, by all available data, very, very, very small, and the potential benefits to infected people, especially like people with who had a high chance normally of having adverse effects from COVID vanilla. Now we have all these variants, but vanilla alpha variant COVID, the possible benefits far outweighed the costs or the possible side effects of the vaccine. And honestly, that's still the case. I still don't think that you should be forced to take it, but that's what Health Canada was looking at.
And that's why I like the fact that we're having this conversation, because we don't agree 100%. Like, we have different views, which we should have. Everyone should have different views. And then when you put those different views together, it makes like this kind of, what's that word when you're doing
synthesis
art, or even art, like it's like a
mosaic.
Yeah, a mosaic of ideas. And then when you see it, you ever see those when you're really those you can do a video effect when you go really close and it's just one Mona Lisa, and then you come back, it's two, and then there's a million Mona Lisas and it makes a big Mona Lisa kind of thing. Cool. That's everyone's little ideas that kind of go together that actually form the real picture. And so I would still put it out there that if you take data of deaths from COVID, there actually the deaths went down compared to influenza during the hottest time of COVID in the United States alone, because they didn't have any influenza data. All the influenza data went to COVID, and it was less than the influenza from the year before. So if you say to me then there was little risk of taking a vaccine, what's more risk, like taking COVID and having it and getting through it, or taking a vaccine and the numbers were the same? So really, there was more risk to me to take on something that was unknown. There was two unknowns. One was unknown. If I get COVID, what's going to happen to me? There is another unknown. If I take the vaccine, what's going to happen to me? The reason why it's an unknown, because it didn't go through all the tests that other vaccines went through. It was fast-tracked. So there are unknowns. That's why the way people used to have to approve vaccines was so long. It was a long process. And they skipped over all of that with Operation Warp Speed, thanks to Orange Man, you know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, again, they might hear me talking and thinking, "Oh, you're one of those." But again, you're a Trumpster. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with. I have my own mind. I'm able to agree with some things and not agree with other things. I think that's the real important thing here. And I think as James Topp goes to Ottawa, and he's basically, I think, speaking for me to be able to say something that I think. And I think then someone comes like Miles here, says the vaccine's only to prevent severe symptoms, right? So someone could attack him and say, no.
They say that now, but originally it was pitched as a prophylactic.
I remember,
to be honest about
Fauci came out and said the only way we can eradicate COVID is by getting the vaccine. You can go back and find that, no problem.
There's pretty obvious clips you can find of Biden saying, "You're not going to get sick." And you could say, "Oh, he's not a public health professional." Yeah, people trust what he says.
He's supposed to take what professionals say.
He's supposed to know.
And he's the talking head for...
You held Trump to that standard. You have to hold your guy to the same standard.
I don't agree with what Trump did. I don't agree with what Biden did. So again, I don't pick sides. I do. I pick... I
am on the side of the truth. You have to tell the truth.
I'm on the side of principles.
Stop lying about stuff. Tell the truth.
Not on people.
Don't lie on either side. That's why I disagree with you on some stuff, because I think it's better to be transparent and clear about things.
I think we should be able to disagree with each other and still be civil and still be best friends, and life goes on and we're more enriched from the conversation. But I think there's a huge movement out there to stop conversations from happening because it's dangerous. Conversations are dangerous, and that's what I think James Topp is fighting for.
Conversations are dangerous.
No, really. Like you can't even talk about that. And that's why you have moderators. I welcome Facebook moderators and YouTube moderators, by the way. Isn't it cool to have a conversation? Doesn't it feel just uplifting to be able to discuss things? And I may be right. I may be wrong, and I think that's okay. Is anyone 100% right all the time? Name me one person that's 100% right all the time.
No one can predict the future.
Nobody. So that's what I think we need to fight for, is the ability. And I love this, how we have 3 people commenting here on Facebook, and it says we have 2 viewers.
Magic. Let's transition to talk about this little community and their new truck bypass roundabout.
Oh, Anne-Marie says we're awesome together. We're like Oreo cookies.
Yeah, which one of us is the black one?
Well, we said
Everyone
Why
likes
would you say
everyone
black?
likes the icing.
But
no
why
one,
would
no
you
one
say,
likes the cookie.
But why would you say which one's the black one? Why wouldn't you
'Cause
say
black
which one
Oreo.
is the cookie and which one's the icing, though?
Cookie?
The cookie
I guess
part.
there are white Oreos.
You know,
just
the
this little joke.
Yeah,
That's all.
the icing. I know. Anyways, are we moving on already?
I think I'm cool. So
You are cool.
I mean, black people are, and the reason I say black, by the way, not African American, is because that's stupid. Okay,
Wow,
people,
you're getting really controversial.
black
here.
people are demonstrably cooler than white people. So
I find that too.
I want to be the cool one, so that's
Yeah.
why I want it to be the black Oreo.
Definitely.
But let's move on.
We'll be right back, and we might just keep it controversial today, I guess.
Okay, so Maley Drive started in 2019. Everybody loves Maley Drive, by the way. Nobody hates Maley Drive. Do you like Maley Drive?
Yeah, I do
I bet
like
you use it all the time.
the extension. Love
Yeah,
it.
the extension. The city prepares to add a third roundabout to the Maley Drive extension. Did you know about that?
A third roundabout to the Maley Drive extension.
Yeah. So there's going to be another roundabout added
Oh,
because
cool.
it's so convenient.
I like that. I like the idea.
But what you might not know about is a new roundabout is going to be opening at the intersection of Longyear Drive and Edison Road in Falconbridge this fall. So not too far from.
That's not the
from
Maley
there.
Drive extension, though. That's a different one.
No, it's a
Oh,
different
okay.
one. So
All right.
I just thought I would mention that. out
For
of the
sure.
gate. And that will be this fall. It will be completed. So construction began in April, probably going to go until this fall, like I said. And it's a larger project, and it's going to create a truck bypass around the Falconbridge community, which
Yes.
is a big deal because right now the limit is 80 kilometers an hour, and trucks basically go right through
Yeah,
the town
quickly.
quickly and loudly. And there's even been reports, trucks idling in front of people's houses and just
Oh, for sure.
hanging out because it's like a main road. It's like
It
a
is.
highway. And you might be wondering, why are people going through Falconbridge? It's to get to Glencore.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's really there, industry-wise. Like,
And there's lots of trucks that have to go
For
there.
sure.
So
Huge company.
This is big news for them. If you already
Yeah.
live there, you'll know about this because
Cool.
you've seen the construction. But
Yeah.
everybody else,
we.
this is good stuff.
That's right, for sure.
$4 million project.
Huge. Looking forward to seeing that if I'm ever in.
I think I'm going to make a detour and go there.
Just to see the construction or to see it when it's done in November.
Well, they do say if you're going to make real estate investments,
Yeah.
you should try and buy something around new construction, like development.
Yes.
Like the Highway 69 project that will never be finished is
Mm-hmm.
a good indicator of growth of a certain area.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're looking for, to buy some
Real estate.
real estate, Falconbridge might be
Call
a good
you
bet.
because you can help them out.
Well, you
right?
could call me, but I would,
But what?
you could get a bad deal with someone else. I don't. It's up to you.
Yeah, or a good deal with you. See, there was
Not
some
guaranteeing
spin.
results with me,
Little
but
bit
I
of
can
spin.
guarantee bad results with everyone else.
Oh my goodness. We'll be right back. The segment sponsored by Zach.
Nah,
Allen,
it's not sponsored by me.
Real estate.
So Sudbury police have charged a Toronto man for trafficking girls in the city of Sudbury. This is
Yeah.
pretty disturbing.
It is.
Found at a Sudbury hotel, OPP have laid 8 charges against the individual. This was a joint task force led by Provincial Human Trafficking Intelligence. And so they were made aware of the incident. They went to the hotel. One of the women was underage. And Victim Services Agency stepped in for the females. It's what they say, not me.
Yeah.
And they're now in, quote unquote, a place of safety. So we do have the name of the 26-year-old man, Deshaun McKenzie. And he's charged with trafficking in persons under 18 years of age, trafficking in persons over 18 years of age, material benefit rising from trafficking in persons, material benefit advertising sexual services, withholding or destroying documents in relating to trafficking people, and assault.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a bail hearing for custody. And
Terrible.
there's just a long list of OPP investigations. So supported by Sudbury Police, Toronto Police, Peel Police, Kingston Police, Peterborough Police, Waterloo Police, and Anishinaabe Police Services. So this is a very extensive investigation that was done. Seems to mostly be at a conclusion. We'll see what happens in the bail hearing.
But it doesn't seem like there's like this one.
Doesn't seem like they'll
if
do
they
much.
have all the, you would think they would like would they be able to crack down on a whole ring and like say there's been thousands of people rescued and things like that if they have that
possibly.
many police departments working on it. Is it just me, or is human trafficking a huge deal worldwide?
Worldwide, yeah.
You know, and even, well, look at it. It's in Sudbury news quite a bit that we see it in our own backyard. So it's not just happening in third world countries or places far from here. It's happening here too. And I'm just wondering, I don't know if they're catching this guy. Is it that, like, what goes into cracking the ring or getting are these people really powerful and similar to drugs and whatever, and so they're above the law? Is that what's going on? Because it's huge worldwide.
I just did
Huge
some
moneymaker.
I just did some Googling. I found out that Deshaun McKenzie, who was arrested in this case, was suspected of a hit and run in 2018.
In Toronto.
This one was posted in the Peterborough.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was a York
East
Regional.
of Toronto.
York Regional. So Peterborough kind of ended up.
Yep.
But yeah, it looks like it's not his first offense, which is not a surprise.
No.
But yeah.
Well, I need to do a little bit more research on that whole human trafficking thing, because it really is, I don't know, it just pricks me in my heart about the whole idea of people being exploited and some of the atrocities that they go through. And
Oh, absolutely.
why can't something more be done about that? But anyways, I need to do my own personal research on that.
So before we get to our last story, which
Okay.
would be on the mayoral candidate that we're all excited to see how he does,
Yes.
let's talk about this Sudbury Star op-ed, misinformation and local news.
Cool. Cool.
Which side of the political, just for sake of argument, which side of the political aisle do you think is more culpable of misinformation?
I would always think the further progressive is. Seems,
Why do you say that?
Because I myself have caught so many just out and out lies and misinformation from establishments like, let's just say, the Atlantic for one thing, or the New York Times. Is it the Washington Post as well? There are these establishments that just have no, and I'll just say CNN, no integrity whatsoever. Just they're caught in just saying out and out lies.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a demonization of the other establishments that aren't as progressive and whatever, to say they are the ones. They're the ones that are doing these great evils. And I have the opportunity to view both of them and to constantly look at both. They are both guilty of misinformation. I do find, though, the progressive left ones to be by far about, I would, to give a percentage, about 75% more misinformation.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I don't think that there's full culpability on one side or the other.
That's what I mean.
I was looking
They're
for
not.
more of a middle answer because that's the type of person I am. But
What do you mean? Like what?
like
what
when
kind of middle answer?
okay, so I do this exercise, and I've thought about turning this into like more of a serious hobby, like recording things, and kind of like what we do here, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
And that would be, you take an article that's pulling from the same information
Yeah.
on both sides, like of a political spectrum,
Yes.
and then you read both of them,
Yeah.
and you try and compare and contrast.
There is a website that I found that has that, and there's a chart even,
Cool.
and it has all the organizations where they land, taking. It's basically they take 10 categories or something similar to what you're talking about, and placing them where, okay, this news article was only found to have, 5% of their news.
Like here,
not
let me
be
just give you an example.
correct.
So, I think often more so in the United States, but I think in Canada it's a problem too, which is funny because I'll go into that later. But the more right-leaning, like let's say the PC party right now seems to be the only valid center-right party in Canada. Like let's say that they are racist, and that's not the case because I think the PC overwhelmingly dominate the Brampton area, which is
very multicultural.
It's
very
a white
multicultural.
minority area.
Extremely.
So very, very diverse.
So how can you say that it's white supremacists?
Unless
are
they're voting
conservative?
against their own interests.
Well, that's what I mean.
It doesn't really make sense.
That's what I do not like, those brush strokes and demonizing.
Anyways, my point
terrible.
is, let's like give you the point that right-leaning parties are slightly racially biased or have like a racial bias.
Sure.
I personally did this exercise with the recent oh man, I'm forgetting the name now.
Yeah.
But there was a school shooting.
Okay.
Not the big one.
Texas?
Not the big
Texas one. No. Okay.
He didn't actually shoot anyone.
Okay.
It was an attempted school shooting.
All right.
And I remember basically I read 2 articles. One was from the furthest right. I think it was like a Huff Post or something.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the furthest left I could find. And then,
okay.
And then I found like a Fox News affiliate one.
Sure.
Because that's pretty much as far right as you can find easily. All these right-wing websites are like really buried. So it's like hard to find them.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's
Fox
what I read.
is mainstream, so you can get that.
And I found 2 specific things that made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the exact city this was in, but someone can comment if they remember. But basically, it was a teenager. He got disgruntled. He went to his school with a gun. He got talked down. He didn't shoot anyone. So basically, the left-leaning article ignored the fact that he was of mixed race.
Yeah.
I think his dad was black and his mom was white. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, the wording.
They just completely ignored that. They didn't put any picture of him. They didn't want to put his name because it was slightly racially suggestive.
For sure.
But they did mention that like he had got the gun so easily. They did mention that it was a terrible thing, and obviously it's a terrible thing. And they didn't mention the race, didn't want to mention anything about that, and wanted to obscure that fact. And then the right-leaning one, they mentioned his race, but all they wanted to talk about was how the gun was illegal.
Yeah.
And that he shouldn't have had the gun already because there are already gun controls.
So right away I know where you're getting to because I know what progressive left media outlets I know their agenda, right? Like
so it's more about obfuscation and like
the guns got to go. That's what the left is going to say. But then, you know what I mean? But if he was white, they're also then going to say it was racially motivated.
Exactly.
So they have they have their checkpoints. They have to kind of keep pushing.
Both
so when you
sides do.
Both sides do, and you get it when you read it. But it also, because the left has got so progressive, it's almost like the right just can just take left's news and just then say, oh no, this is what it really is. This is what it really is. This is what it really is. So now they look like always the good guys no matter what. If you're into news and truth, that's what it looks like to somebody who's out there just trying to get real information. But
exactly. Someone who, like me, who just wants all the information.
That's it.
It's hard to find in one place.
Because there's so much spin.
They just try and put
Tons
their
of spin.
thing on it. Like, how terrible is it that a child can have this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, where are the parents?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like, that's the angle I'm taking. Like, I'm not looking in terms of policy.
Yeah.
I'm always looking at issues of, like, how can this be prevented and solved?
So the issue is our university system. I agree with Jordan Peterson. I don't agree with Jordan Peterson on everything. Just because I say his name, don't put me in a box. But I read and watch as much as I can consume on media and what's going on out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But he says our university system is to blame for this. And I agree with him on that. Just recently having come out of the system, you as well just did as well. So they are creating activists. Like, so if you go and you become an engineer, you become a whatever, you need to be an activist.
Well, I think it's
you
less
can't just
prevalent in the science fields.
You're right, but more in the communications.
Pretty much
like
everything
I was
else.
in
Yeah.
theater, whatever you name it.
Yeah.
You got it. So these journalists are now, they're not just journalists. They're not out there to get information. They're out there to be activists. And so you see that. You see their agenda in their stories.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that, there's a story that just came out about the CBC that the CRTC said it's okay for the CBC to have op-eds or what is it when a company can come in and write a story for them. And they
Right.
don't have to, they can say sponsored or whatever, but it's okay for the CBC to take a corporation's money and have them write a story and make it look like a news article. CRTC
interesting.
just said it's okay to do that. And the only ones that said that's fine is the CBC and one other organization. All other organizations, unions, journalistic integrity associations said that should not be the case. They're a publicly funded media organization.
Has to be
They shouldn't be
unbiased.
putting media out there. Exactly. That's bias. And if you're an organization paying the media outlet to write the story for them, it's obviously going to be pro whoever is paying you to do that. And anyways, CRTC said it's fine, which
Yeah, they're supposed to be the watchdogs.
Yeah.
Of that. So that's a little alarming.
yeah, exactly. Well, I know we
I
had
don't know,
a
it's
few,
all alarming, but
yeah, we had a few comments along the way. I know our Facebook is a little slow, so we're already moving on to the next story, and then we have some comments. So I encourage everyone just to read the comments, have a conversation too. If we're not able to get it on the show, I know Jerome's been really kind of active here in the discussion and talking about the human trafficking and the police and things like that too. So apparently we need, he says they're very aware of what's going on, but again, this whole incompetence thing.
you think it's an incompetence?
It's an incompetence.
I tend to side on the incompetence side of the argument just because
Yeah.
I prefer to think that they're not doing it for malicious reasons.
Yeah.
Like I think most police come in, get their uniform on, get in their
Yeah.
police cruiser, they go through their day, they go home,
Yeah.
they have a couple pops and then they go to sleep. Like I don't think they're like
Yeah.
it's like anybody else. Like, are you the type of person, just ask yourself this when you go to work, are you actively searching for like new and innovative projects to deliver on? I would assume most people are not doing that.
Yeah, we had that.
And the police are the same.
We had that discussion about city bureaucracy and the fact that so many things don't get done because they don't want more work.
Yeah.
You know
maybe.
what I mean?
Yeah,
if
maybe.
we come up with this innovative idea, does that mean my job has to change and the routines I'm in,
Right.
I'm going to have to actually do a lot more work? And I think they think, no, I don't want more work, so things
Mm-hmm.
don't change. Anyways, yeah, so speaking of that, I think that's a good segue to our next
Let's talk
topic,
about this.
right?
Yeah.
Last of all, but there is some sports, so
Not the
hopefully we
least.
can get to that. We got 7 minutes.
We'll take 3 minutes on this and then
Okay.
you'll have the rest for
Cool.
sports because we haven't done a sports
We haven't
announcement.
done sport. And
pretty much
Randy
all week.
Pascal tentatively is scheduled to come on the show next Friday
That's awesome.
for his 30-minute, he's like a fire hose of sports, local sports.
He is great.
Sometimes I'm like, wow, it's just so much information. But anyways, yeah, so we have a new mayoral candidate. Well, not new, but Paul Lefebvre.
He has formally announced his candidacy.
Yeah.
He had a lively group of friends, families, and supporters at first round in Valcaron to announce this
Yes.
and give a speech. And we have some of the quotes here. It's very important to me that every citizen of Greater Sudbury feels they are part of this movement and of the action we want to take to make Sudbury a great place to live, noting it can be easy to be disconnected in such a mammoth place.
Yes.
That was what he said.
A mammoth place.
Yeah, I guess
Compared to what?
not really sure what the message is here,
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I think for one he's qualified to be mayor.
Oh, I think maybe even overqualified.
You can agree or disagree on his policy, but I think
sure.
he's definitely qualified. And I think he's going to stand out head and shoulders above some of his
He is.
running,
He is the
mates.
front runner, bar none, in terms of my preliminary looking at what's going on with the candidates, for sure. Even over the incumbent.
Even over the incumbent.
Which isn't
he is
always the
kind of an
case.
incumbent.
Yeah, because he was the former
way.
MP of Sudbury, right? So,
Another notable thing from his speech was the claim that Sudbury needs to grow its tax base through population growth.
yep.
rather than raising taxes.
Yes.
So councillors are aiming to raise taxes 3.7%, which, by the way, we found is about $16 million short of what they need to do to balance the budget.
It's crazy.
But Lefebvre's claim is that if you bring people to the city, give people what they want, you won't need to raise taxes because it will actually increase the tax base. So
that is a direct from the liberal kind of federal goals and
it's carried over. Yeah.
Carried over to local, right? So this is what you have. So you have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. So now you have what I thought could be, if you want to look at it, it could be, hey, we need to make sure Sudbury is on board here. So, Paul, do you think you could go there and get her done for us, kind of thing? You have to be aware of these types of things going on. It is politics, by the way. That is what happens. People want things done a certain way, and it's not always bad. It's what I'm saying. It's just, I'm not so
it is
critical.
What it is.
It is what it is. It's like, oh, your nephew's working here? Right away, my mind goes, well, obviously I know how you got the job. But I'm thinking, well, it's not always the worst thing to have your nephew working here. Nepotism isn't always bad.
You know what? I changed my mind on that recently.
Yeah?
I always thought that was the sign of like corruption.
Yeah.
And I recently read, trigger warning, one of Donald Trump's books.
Yeah.
And he changed my opinion on it.
How? For what? What?
He says in his book, he hires his family members for one reason, and that is you can't trust anyone.
Yes.
So he hires his family members because he knows them their whole life, and he says they're the one group of people I completely trust.
Yes.
Which, if you're working in a position like a large organization like that, that has to have some value. So like that loyalty and trust.
It's not always bad.
It's not always
you can work
bad.
easily with some people that you already know what you're dealing with and whatever. And if it's your own business, crying out loud, well, you do have a lot more.
Imagine you had $1 billion.
People aren't going to question you're hiring your own family if you run your own business.
You had $1 billion of, casinos and hotels across the world.
Yeah.
And then you hire your son-in-law or something as some VP. Like people would look at that as nepotism, say, how can he possibly be the best, candidate for this or whatever out of all the people? And it's like, it's not always about qualification.
No.
A big part of running your own business is trusting the people you're working with.
And working with them, having the synergy. But the problem is, in Sudbury, however, you have these supposed to be like government entities. Like you have the CRA, Service Canada, a lot of nepotism goes on there. But yet when you're in there, they'll tell you that's the farthest thing from that. We're going, oh, this is one of the most integral places in the world. But then you get in there and it's not. And then similar to the city, if you look in there, it's a lot of relations working in there. And you're like, okay, well, I see how they got their job. Education, any kind of institution, large institution, you start getting this type of
it's
nepotism.
Self-fulfilling, almost, too.
Kind of going on.
Like I've seen doctors who their kids become doctors. That doesn't mean there's nepotism.
No.
It's a lot of the time it's like the parents
right.
push their kids a certain direction.
Yeah.
So I think there's different factors to it, but
yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they ran the government like a business. I think the problem is they're not running it enough like a business. They're running it like a charity. And I don't know. Balancing a budget seems to be like a pretty basic skill that the city council and mayor haven't been able to figure out.
Now, Paul being in as mayor, again, with our, we have a conservative provincial government, but we have a federal liberal government. At least it's going to be favorable for anything to do with federal funding for Sudbury if, again, he is put in there. And I say put in there because that is a possibility that he's kind of put in there. That's how politics works. It's almost like we think, well, who's going to rival that? That kind of person with that kind of background, that notoriety, that support. Look who just supported him.
The former mayor.
From a little ways back.
Yeah, not the former mayor, but the ex-mayor. Yeah.
Who I thought was a conservative myself. Jim Gordon. I've always heard people telling me anyways that he was conservative. I don't know.
Well, he's
What?
wearing a blue shirt in the picture. Does that say anything?
Talk about branding, yeah. No, but anyways, so yeah, Paul Lefebvre, he's gonna really work on, what is the headline here? He's gonna take on.
I think
for the city
economics is going to be his big
is going to be
one.
a big
It's
focus
bringing the economics of
by
the city
bringing
back.
more immigration to Sudbury.
Okay.
So that way we don't have to raise taxes. We'll just bring more people here. But I don't really see the common sense in that, because the more people you have, the more infrastructure you need, and the more taxes you eventually have to raise. Sorry to pop the bubble on that one. You might not be able to ride that one too long.
You know,
But
as
anyways,
a marketer, like one of the most important parts of my profession is survey.
Yeah.
Is like finding out what people think.
Mm-hmm.
And I seriously doubt that they've done any surveying. Like any of these mayoral candidates have done any surveying.
No.
Because I think you would find economics is pretty unimportant.
Yes.
Like I think that's probably like the fourth issue that most people care about.
We're going to talk about the mayoral candidate more and more and more coming up. I just want to squeeze in some sports here.
Let's go to sports.
Because we're pretty much done. So, right back. I thought I Okay, so you got the Sudbury Spartans. They're wreaking havoc here. They're just winning all their games, and they're going to be playing June 30th. No, sorry, that's the wrong article. Okay, so the Sudbury Spartans will be playing Junior Spartans, third home game of the season. It's a back-to-back at James Jerome Field this Saturday, 4 p.m., taking on the North Bay Bulldogs. And then also right after that at 7 p.m., the Sudbury Spartans, the senior group, will be taking on Sarnia Imperials at 7. So it's a back-to-back. You can get 30%. What is it here? It says, we're celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Sudbury Spartans. Pretty cool. And fans can save $10 off all 70th anniversary merchandise. Speaking of merchandise, they are moving their store in the new Sudbury Shopping Center from one location to another. That's going to be, so before June 27th. So on June 26th, that's the last day you can get stuff that's as much as, what did they say? Is it 30% off, something like that, all of their stuff? Yeah. I can't even, I thought that's what it said. I can't find it in the media release now. But anyways, you can get a lot of discounts. Go in, look at stuff that'll be marked down. And then the grand opening of the new location will be Thursday, June 30th in the mall. So check that out. You can go to Sudbury Wolves Sports and Entertainment Group's website to catch out all the latest, greatest on that. So on behalf of Zach and AJ, thanks for joining us, everyone. Same time, same place, here on CKLU 96.7 FM and Facebook and YouTube Live. Have a great one. Ciao.